that into a single story. It's somebody woke up, grew up, changed the world, flew across the universe, rode a dragon back, and had tea. It's an epic tale because it's not one life; it's all the lives of that bloodline expressed as a continuous conscious experience happening in the now. And you can't imagine what that's like. You go to a party, a concert, the lunchroom. You can't even hear yourself think. It's so loud. People are so overwhelmed. Imagine that entire experience of everyone's mind in one mind at once, one day, one night. And they weren't doing debauchery or being all weird and stuff. They were experiencing the truth of their soul. That's what every human saga is. That's what a soul is. It's the most powerful thing there is. That's why it's also used for fuel. But, alright, we're back in the vat. I forgot where I was. So, you see all that information, all that energy. So, you have the substrate. Or you have the world, and we go through that, and we make the decisions and choices. It's empty space. We have this material body, this, that, and the other. Variations and challenges arise in different degrees and depths, and we're forced to change to advance ourselves, to refine the ability to control and know ourselves in increasing, gradient through the layers in this world. We're creating that soul world, that soul progression through a sandbox world. It's inherently just stuff happening. Coffee is neurotoxic, but you can make it a bit safer if you chug a little bit of water every time you drink some. And don't roast it until the tannins come out and blah, blah, blah. And so then you have a whole world for that. Now imagine the end result is a kind of knowingness, pure information. Imagine how that's defined in the system. Just the photonic interactions around living, neuronal cells or, brain cells. And so somehow you look into the system. Say this place is like a computer, you vibrate a complex enough, isolated, fractal arrangement of molecules that kind of dimensionally organize or orient towards specific aspects of the entire universe, or like scale models, if you will, but of specific physics aspects, certain molecules or chemicals or whatever, and you can get them to do things which result in changes that would otherwise only be described through what we know of as life experiences or spiritual awakenings or some type of unveiling of the soul. So in short, there's like a substance, there's a process, what we consider the mystical soul journey experience, the information can be defined, accelerated, delayed, or disrupted, mutated, or malformed, It's understood. And so the idea is that in that vat, it's as if you have specific soul fluid molecules that are some higher space invention. It's in some, quantum vacuum, 0 point, absolute zero field interaction, quantum fractal simulation, etc. And you have every mind in the universe that's being examined in that vat. And so we go through the universe and experience from low to high, low self-awareness, and ultimately very, very high, very, very strong, consistent, stabilized waves of energetic alignment, which literally look like those maps of hierarchical maps of like a Davic reality, where you have all these like hierarchical angels, and both sides of the world have the same maps. They're just different beings and different makeups. Both sides went and said, "Oh, you see that pyramid-looking thing with the big guy on top and all those angel things flying around, and then all the things on the bottom?" It's like the same thing, same hierarchy, spiritual hierarchy. And so, and so then we go through the world, and our actions, our thoughts, words or deeds, depending on how you want to word it, they take us from low to high awareness. High awareness is the exit. You climb up the pyramid and you spiral out. Anyway. But that's the point. So now, imagine you had a sandbox and all that happened. Trillions of years, just so many actions, so many times. We vibrated, okay? And all that happens trillions of years is you have a trillion, billion, trillion little atoms, and some of them are molecules that have capacity for consciousness, and then some of them have that soul molecule in it, and it's thinking, feeling, going, oh, when am I going to get out of here? When am I going to... All that's happening is you have that, and you have them all layered up in density, and somebody took the pan that all the molecules are in and went and shook it a little bit, heated it and shook it. So all the light molecules of soul vibrate upwards in a spiraling dance towards the pinnacle, while all the heavy material basically stay the same and are neutral and are what are the construct that are climbed through, and then all the negative, like self-destructive, entropic sinks. There's no up or down. It's just in relation to one another, like a slinky or a sprinky, and I guess that's the same thing. But maybe a sling sprinky inside of a pyramid wrapping around itself. Inside out, long ways. You kind of need more. It's the sprinky splits into multiple other sprinkies. It doesn't split into a line that's squiggly. It splits into a bunch of other sprinkies. And so that's basically what's happening. We're vibrating through change, and you either go, oop, and you use less self-awareness than you had before, or you do something that tells the tale of somebody that has less self-awareness now than they had before, and you go down a level, or you do the opposite and you go up a level every single time. And you can get in situations where there's bigger amounts of change, or you can stay, I guess, away from it. But if there's a reason you're staying away, then that will be the point that you don't advance past, and then that's what's holding you back, which means you didn't do anything wrong, but you didn't go forward. So that's like going backwards. And again, that's because it's relative. Going up or down, there really is no up or down. It's just what you're moving past at the time. In that objective world, but hold up, we zoom out and we get an objective world. Everyone zooms out and sees a different objective world. That's the point. You see the same kind of hierarchy, but when we all go to our 0 point, or if you get, in a situation where you have access to the tech, where you're being shown these things, which a lot of people are now, it's human tech. It's here for the people, humans. Well, like, okay, we're all supposed to have access to our soul's family knowledge. Like, that's the point. And then people hid it and kept it to themselves, and, well, they ruined their bloodline as a result of that. Because there's not enough complexity in one system, and so they have all the power, but they can't do anything with it. It's not good for anything. Until they, changed it, which is pretty much what happened, which is why people like me know about this stuff. Otherwise, none of us would know anything, and everything would have just ended. That's that. And it ends crazy. It shuts down like an umbrella going, and then the lights go off. Literally, like the realm shuts off. It doesn't just like, and then it's just sitting here rotting. No, and we all run out of energy. We're a projection. Like one of those things where all the people come out on tracks and then go back into the clock or something. It's like that. Either way, regardless. And that's on a lower level. Meaning there's a time, there's a track, and that's 3.5 to 4D limited. If you can encapsulate yourself in a 5D quantum vacuum and move your consciousness through that, well, technically you can pick yourself up off that track and go over to somewhere else on the track and then sit down there. You don't have to actually stay in the car. But if you're seeing just from that physical body, that's stuck. You can run around all you want, you can't get off the track of time. Because in that timeline, you just ran around. And that was you thought you were getting around, but that's the point. That becomes your timeline. And it's also because it's not physical. If something happens 5D, you go, and then the feeling that could have been lower suddenly goes higher and say, no, I don't want these sins, I don't want these pains, I don't want these memories, these traumatizations. I give them back. You can have them. Or they go wherever they're needed. They're not mine. That's a 5D shift. Because that's a human looking at a barrier, trying to get over a rock, and all of a sudden they're just lifted up, and they hop over it. It's like 30 feet high. That's not possible. That's a miracle. And that's how it's explained in the higher realms. Because when we get there, everybody goes, oh, how did it go, how did it go, how did it go? And there's 1,000 different ways to explain it. Ultimately, we see it the way Spirit sees it. And so if in your life you were held back, and you go, you know what, I have, more than this. And all of a sudden, you lift that obstacle that was holding an entire species back, a bloodline, a nation. Well, in the higher planes, they see somebody pick a boulder up and throw it into a lake or something. Not a lake, a smush fish. Throw it over off to the side. A little tiny person. Because that's what it looks like. Because the mind is what's real. And if it's not, we'll go to somebody on the street and say, hey, it's just your head that's messing stuff up. It's not even real. Boom, you could be anybody. No, go be free. They're not going to do anything different. Because their mind is set. And they can't see past it. And there are other reasons, meaning it's also mainly because their chemicals are telling them a certain way. Because when somebody then says, oh, I want to dominate this way or that way, and well, that's a different thing, because nope, they're not on something to make them feel that way. They simply just have this desire to dominate, and their mind is set. And then to get them to convince, you can't have them detox, they're just like that. So then that's the power of the mind. But again, that's the power of the mind. And somebody else's mind, and everybody puts their minds together, and it's just what happens. Anyway, got a little distracted. Hello? Things in the mind. I think I'll just put it all back together. Can't remember where it was, though. Okay, so there's a specific cymatic vibration and a pattern, and it's like the fractals where you see the pattern, but then you zoom in on the nodal point where the two lines cross, they intersect, they meet, and then there's another aspect of that pattern. It keeps going down, down, down. You look down far enough, and you find a plane with people walking around in it, in this fluid. Where it bends and it creates underwater, you see high pressure creates bubbles like the ripples coming off of the propeller of a submarine underwater. You see or a cruise ship. You see those ripples, those bubbles, high pressure. I can't remember what it's called. Same thing happens to planes, the wingtips. I can't remember what those are called. Those aren't contrails, I don't think. I can't remember the word. Like a pressure changes the state, and then there's all these effects that are involved. Usually some type of whirlwind. I can't remember what that's called either. That's how things fly. And so that's happening in the fluid. That cymatic groove, and it builds up, and now there's these pressure points and those nodes. Instead of releasing bubbles of air, it's creating decades of time. Little closed, closed time-like curves, or closed of circuitry of consciousness that open and form from the same pivotal point, meaning the start and the end, the same tip pinpoint that expands out from, and then you see the loop beginning afterwards. But at first, it's just one quick beginning and end that expands and stretches out to, as far as that bubble expands, is the amount of time that exists in that eternity, that consciousness loop. So these little momentary bubbles, that sonoluminescent bubbles that open up and shut real quick, could be decades, eons, eternities for consciousness that is inside that, which any consciousness is simply that where there's a vacuum inside that fluid. You have something now looking, clear mind, looking out, going, oh, what's this? What's happening? So they're trained, or they're practiced adepts. They're adept at vibrating they know the place locally, the distance apart, geometric physically, and they know the timing, the distance temporally, and the rhythm and the synchronicity of the placing apart to create the right cymatic patterns based on the tapping to open up enough pressure differentials, the right effects, this and the other, to get consciousness to appear. And so again, the only thing that's in that vat is soul fluid and this weird hyperdimensional space-time stuff that opens up whatever you want to call it. I don't really know how it works. But in other words, the universe is inside that vat, and then there's a bunch of soul fluid. And so the soul fluid bounces around the universal parts just the right way, and if it does it just the right way, you get a little photon ball on top and a spiral down and a gradient of energy and all other states of matter and consciousness from there. And every little bubble forms its own complete universe, with each soul as the shining pinnacle awareness of the entirety of that timeline, that universe. Each human is a timeline guardian. Well, I mean, we're guardians now because somebody poured toxins into the vat and some nanites. Just put it like that. And so then, that's one way to see it. And so then, as well, you can see it, this is the other way now, and it's the trip part. What we think we get out of that vat, once we vibrate up, all the darkness goes to the other side. We extend out of the darkness like a spiral, a sprinky in a pyramidal shape, and at the very top, all of our awareness is kept in a complete quantum vacuum that never slips out into low awareness, and we regathered ourselves from all aspects of that timeline in that world, which is just literally, it means you have this fluid, and you got water and oil. It's like there's the fluid, the space-time fluid, and then your soul, and they don't mix, and you shake it all up, and then you vibrate it, and then they all go back in their place. It's like, that's it. And for us, that's eternities of going out and not knowing ourselves and forgetting where we are and waking up here and having to do the right things and feed ourselves properly, this and the other, and then getting back to where we are. Which almost makes it meaningless, but it's not. Because it's literally to say, well, you can do as much as you want. Interesting. Maybe not as much as you want, because there's a point to it. It'd be like kind of washing your mind out, having so many powerful experiences or something, you only need to. But the idea is, so then the other way is that that's the only thing that's in that fluid, right? And so when we get out of that fluid, they get everything quantum stabilized, and now all of time and space is as it is, and all of consciousness is as it is, meaning we all get maximum level of awareness, and we can never go back down a layer. It would be like, I don't know, holding your breath underwater and saying, it was too complex and you forgot how to swim. That doesn't happen. You'd have to literally try to fail, and at that, it'd be so much stuff to stop that from even working that you couldn't. Meaning, once we're at that level, your soul could go anywhere in any place and time in this place, and it will never get lost. It will never be unable to have the same energy to burst through that consciousness membrane and go back into hyperconsciousness and getting out, which is in. And it's also confusing because we're already out while we're in. That's the point. That's what the system is. It takes memory kind of reflections of your shadow consciousness, meaning just the stuff you're not aware of thinking. And in other words, you go up to the vat. It's a big golden vat. You look like a stretched out fat person because your head is at the top of the reflection and it's polished. It's like a brass polished golden vat. And then your body gets fat in the middle of the projection, the reflection, where the vat goes all wide, and then you get skinny again, and your feet go down to the very bottom of the reflection, at the bottom of the vat. And so it takes that version of you and puts it into the device, and then you have to literally, the real you has to be the guiding light that guides the false you back into wholeness, which is not really how it works, but ultimately, you're not in the vat. You've never been in the vat. You don't have to get out of anything because that's not how it works. But you can't deny it consciously because your consciousness is reflected inside. You're seeing yourself through what the vat is feeding back to your mind. So you're looking at yourself, but you're looking through a looking glass that's accurately looking at you, but yet you're still using something else. So you're not technically seeing the real you, you're seeing a reflection. And then with that, you go this way, the reflection, it balances. You go the wrong way, your reflection goes the opposite way, you lose sight of your reflection. That's what's happening with the soul level and higher awareness, where people see themselves go, okay, this isn't the real thing, this is like a version of it. But in the mirror, you have to keep your sides organized when you're combing your hair, because if you forget, like when you're a kid and you bap the side of your head because you forgot left is left and right is right, and you get discombobulated in the mirror, that's what happens in the earth plane, and people walk further into darkness thinking they don't know how to get back to themselves because of a simple, but instead of left and right, it's inverted and, reverted or regular consciousness. It's that you're looking at a mirror, you're looking at the opposite version of yourself, and everything you're thinking here is what you did not think there. And it's thinking for you this alternate version of you, and that's what the real you is looking at. And that's why it's confusing, because you're not seeing the real you, but it's everything that you are and aren't. Or maybe everything you aren't are. But then you're faced with, well, do I accept that this version of me that I've identified with is so much less and then now create that schism? Or do I deny that there could be something more and stay with something that I know is for me, like created for me, automated? Like I didn't create this. I didn't create this situation. I would do it way different if I did, Like this is just somebody else did this. And I can make it one way or another, but I'm not the maestro here, clearly. And so then, you're given a choice which way you want to see it, but that's what the device then does. It finds within you, it finds within the population, it finds within the universe who is willing to take that chance and make the choice, and who's willing to remain content with something that's automatically created for them. And so it takes from a universe, it takes something that's potentially lost or even capable of being broken and makes something eternal. It makes something unbreakable. But it really was always what's there. It just shows that unbreakable thing, what breaking is and what being unbreakable is. And that's the only thing anyone can ever know. Because if there's anything beyond that, then it's forgotten. So there's no place for that in conscious world. So, all right, good luck. Well, trillions of years from now, we'll know what you're talking about. And then from then, trillions of years, because it will never be in conscious plane. Until we all sit in, pyramids that we're born in, and we stay there for our life and just expand our conscious out, Anyway. Oh, but that's if you want to, and we're all piecing together our little glimpses of what we see, you'll eventually get these hierarchies or these other places that are feedback points for this realm, meaning everything here is coming out of a point, a pixel in that reality. And the ultimate idea is that eventually we're going to learn that we're creating the feedback points. And if we don't like what happened in this bubble of time, because somebody had the tech and didn't tell anybody and just let everybody in this big goose chase BS so that they could be free, as there's, everybody's blaming imaginary creatures for stealing their money and so on, which is retarded. And sending people to war and this, that, and the other, and lying to them. No, people lie. People steal shit. Fucking imaginary creatures don't need your shit. They don't fucking need any of that. It's the people that did it. And so then basically we could invent a reality where, there's a base, or there's a way station, or there's a tunnel we all had to get through, and then everybody has to get checked for a parasitic asshole virus that makes you want to lie and cheat and steal, because in that next place on the other side of that gate, everyone simply, I'm not going to describe it, I'm not going to tell you, but there's tech and there's power to say whatever you think you have. I'll let you determine whether I mean you dream about it, you think about it, you pray for it, and someday you get it, or whether you let it go, wow, and the machine spits out the device. Or not a machine, but the plane itself. Literally, like the place you're in. This is the place where your mind can become real, whatever you think is it. So it's like, that exists. It's a combination of tech. It's a balance of tech and spirit, you could say, or nature. But If you had, if not only if you had an inkling of perversion and weirdness, I'll just tell you now, the perversion will just destroy yourself. That's not even the problem. It's the power hunger, system thing. Imagine that going wrong. Then imagine if you were somebody who literally has a reputation in your DNA. You ruled over masses of people and didn't give a damn. And you go to a place where you could press a button and get everything you need. That person would try to take over that place and destroy everything there. So, regardless, the idea is you could imagine a realm that exists outside of this realm, and every single temporal projection, meaning extension from this place out to any other place, could be defined through the nature of defining that other place. Meaning everything could always be. You take it, you shrink that story down. It's like all the fractal stories recombine depending on how those fractals work. If your brain is 9-dimensional, anyone's brain can see through brain, and you can see through theirs. If your brain's 3-dimensional, you need a blueprint to see, otherwise it won't work. They figured a lot of this out a long time ago. How to create the ability to see. Imagine they were doing that, and some people were still literally like trying to live in trees and shit. Literally like not even like do they read, but it's like if you try and teach them too much, they're gonna go ape shit and just fucking destroy everything. They can't handle it. It's not in their genome. Yeah, like not too long ago, shit's crazy. Anyway, what was I saying? Right, so it's down to context. It means you can take the ends of you can take the story, go and smush it. You compress it down. It's condensed now. And you got this whole thing. And then you add on the sides, but not by adding selectively and going, okay, add some space there. You have, okay, so you fit that loop. You have a start and a finish, and it's like a balloon, and the knot is both where the start and the finish are. And so the balloon comes out of the knot. You tie a knot in this balloon fluid. There's a knot. Then from there, the balloon expands and you get time. Without the closure point, the completion, the succession doesn't work. And so then you can take that balloon, it's reached this breaking point, there's no more it can expand. You can take that and fit it inside the knot of another balloon. And it just becomes just another pixel in a larger story. And everything always does this. There is no way to do anything else because that fluid recursively goes around the side of the vat and comes back to itself, and that's how it works. You shine a laser out to the end of space, you fucking get hit in the back of the head with the laser. And you're looking at some weird guy's head, and so on. And then when you think shit, it makes him think shit, and you realize you created a feedback loop with the universe, and it gets weird. Regardless. But that's the point. It's a circle. So there's nothing to get out of. I know that's like mind-boggling. It's like, at least there's got to be a ditch or something. It's like, no, low consciousness, and then you get up, and then you can see more like you're on a ladder, but that just means you got smarter, and now you can have more pixels of resolution in your vision of your consciousness, not that you got out of a ditch. I mean, it's metaphors. The ditch is stupidity, darkness, it's lack of connectivity, it's entropy, it's whatever. There's nothing actually there. But in the same sense, there are things everywhere. Watch your head. Don't trip. Maybe use the handrail. But, now where was I? Okay, so the story can always be added. It's not adding, it's literally multiplying. Because that's the other aspect, that you have to have the level of complexity in that larger balloon that can handle the completion of the complexity in the smaller one multiple magnitudes of order over. If you have one 9 to 9 to 9, then you can take that balloon, expand it to infinity inside that one, take that one, compress it, and expand it to infinity in another one, and it never stops. And it's about the level of variation in your life. Are you strictly good at doing what you're doing in one way, one direction, without the ability to change, without the ability to see what you aren't, the other slices of pie that you're a part of, but physically cannot actually also be, otherwise you didn't, negate the point of being in a pie. In reality, it's compartmentalized that way, and so that's how it works. And so on, or whatever I was saying. Or are you kind of stuck? Basically, do your emotions stop your brain from reorganizing itself and accessing different quantum states, and therefore being a traveling, mobilized aspect of a hyper-conscious civilization or society? Or do you basically just sit there and wait for the automated versions of ourselves that we've been given to do something different, which will never happen? And again, we're all asked these questions simply by being here. And so then that's fractal. It's the contextual rearrangement of temporal fractal. It's the easiest and most basic way to say it. It goes very complex to molecular sharing, quantum tunneling, and all types of weird stuff, or atom sharing. Excuse me. They've turned atoms into computer systems. And it's already doing that. So then now what? Now we have worlds within worlds. And then that atom computer system is doing what? Well, it's a simulation inside of another system that they're using to create resonance wave structures that are going to modify this system. Like they took in that vat the whole image of what's all in that vat, or just a portion of it, shrunk it, put it in a quantum vacuum in a portion of the vat, and scientists prodded that little bubble with a smaller version of the whole thing, and they got the whole to change by they electrocuted the little part of the mirror simulation fractal vat in the bubble they made, and the vat on the outside in the real world then started to vibrate and shake like they were modifying it. So then that's what they did. And it's obviously different ways to explain it, but that's to it. Human genome and so on. You modify the feedback systems that have been in place and basically are regulating, like quantum systems, our consciousness, our genome, our time. Okay. Yeah, that's what happened. But the thing is, we're in ourselves in a big quantum like reverberation chamber, so it's like the walls started to crumble. That's what they didn't understand. They didn't expect. They thought we were in something. Well, eventually that doesn't work, and you just get the thing you're in, all the other things that's in, and then what it's really in, which is not a thing, a hyperspace fluid. You just jump to the finish line. And so here's like the maybe like the final part of that, which is that basically, see if I can say it right. I can't remember what I was talking about. The hyperfluid, the quantum vacuum bubbles produce consciousness, sparks, kind of like the same thing. Zinc comes out of the vacuum that's created the sperm meeting the egg and so on. And so then we do all that, and then they pull people out of that chamber. They pull at the tops of the little pyramids and that cymatic thing at the center of the nodes. You have pure awareness, absolutely pure awareness. They pull all those pure awareness marbles, put them in this tray, and line them all up. And from that, they become awakened. They become people. They pop out of the thing. Where are we? How did we get here? And they would tell you maybe that the space that you experienced all of that in, the time, the people, the things, didn't exist, and that what that fluid is the easiest way to say it is a representative, a biotechnological projection reflection system that allows you to dream effortlessly with full resolution and depth whatever is in your psyche from the beginning of the consciousness level that you experience now, all the way down 9 layers deep, 9 layers of magnitudes of order of frequency, up and down in scale, to the most high awareness that you could ever obtain, that's the pinnacle of all events you've ever been participated in, period, to the least aware aspect of yourself. And that all this system, all that fluid does is electrify itself, use your own influence, the electroactivity of your brain, which is actually a mind, which is actually a little vortex inside one of those golden marbles, and spins out and spits out stories, fractal reiterations of change, time, and personality, giving you choices, options, where you'll ultimately create a 9-layer pathway into the world of this, which is an illusion, which is hell, which is disillusion or dissolving, or out of that, which is the hyperspatial vat dream system, into true awareness. And none of those events actually took place because you invented them all. And that's what the nature of this society is. And everyone did that too, because everyone that was here, that was truly here, was another marble in that vat. And you all co-created it together, and we can prove it because we have 10 vats over here, and look how different they are. And as soon as you see, wait, they made that, it's like, yeah, there's no way. It's something that's so varying, that's so different than what is here. Either, like SpongeBob, Smorgasbord, General Major, whatever, invents this whole system, or that it's a freestanding system. Soul marbles or cores are used for this, and we all co-creatively invent these worlds. And it's like, look at these, imagine these souls, like look how different they are. They're over flying these little blue jet craft thing around, and there's like portals everywhere, and that's not really for humans. But they use these crystals and project their consciousness out, and then it goes into everyone, and they're watching TV through these crystals in their house. They're not watching TV, they're watching their thoughts. Just weirdos. And it's like, well, where'd you get those marbles? And then they go, and the last thing they say is, they're all the same. There's only 7 marbles in existence, period. There's only 7 marbles in existence, or maybe it's 9. That's all there are. That's all there ever can be. And she's like, you what? You say, what? It really messes your head up then. Well, which one is the real one? Which world? Which vat? Which was the start? Which is the real us? Who's who? And they say, now you're getting it. That's what we're all here to define, to discover, to find out. I don't know what anyone says after that.